Beyond the mysteries of space and time. Simon the Cut and Shaolin Phil bring you the Pompey Eclectic podcast.
Okay, we're back.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Minor technical fault there, which you won't have noticed if you're listening to the audio pod, because we will have edited it.
And the video pod.
Oh, that
on
too.
YouTube.
Okay.
If it's not copyright strike, YouTube.
Mm-hmm. So this is episode 8 of Pompey Eclectic, and we're going to be talking about gaming. This is our gaming review.
Wow. And who are we?
Who are we? Well, we've just been introduced. I'm Simon the Cut.
And I am Shaolin Phil.
Yeah. We don't really quite have the ebb and flow of sitting next to each other in person, do we, when you're in Vietnam?
Yes, but they introduced us, but they don't know. We don't still for the audio listener. There's no subtitles to say who's who, who is
Who's
whom,
who?
or whom is who.
Whom is whom? I don't know. I don't know what the correct grammar is for that, but yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So how are you, Simon? How is England?
Yeah, it's blooming good. Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, nice and sunny. We're in sunny April, sunny spring.
You're over the worst. It's all getting nice again now.
Exactly.
Excellent. That's good. That's the best time of year.
Yeah. True enough.
Yeah.
Let's start our discussion, shall we?
What do you mean? I'm not up on these things.
Gaming. We've got to talk about gaming.
Oh, gaming. Yes, definitely.
For our listener.
Gaming. I can talk about gaming till the cows come on.
Yeah. I thought we'd start off talking about the earliest games. So this is going back to... Actually, one of the earliest games was something like 1965. But it was in some research laboratory, you know. But
that's right. I heard about those machines that go big, big, big. They turned it into a game somehow. What are they called? What are those things called that measure kind of?
Oh, like an ECG, oscilloscope,
something like that. That's it. Oscilloscope. Yeah, one of those words I can't say. That's the first game was made in one of those. That's what I heard, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think the earliest game was a word game of some kind, like something where you had to type in words. That was easier, you know. It's before graphics was really available.
Oh yeah, like these like those adventure games where you type in look, examine, north, south, east, west,
something
whatever.
Like
those were brilliant.
Or it might have been. I did read somewhere it was noughts and crosses, tic tac toe, because that's easy to do as well.
That's easy to do. Yeah.
But actually, in the early 70s, Atari launched a game called Pong.
I remember that.
Basically, it was based on ping pong.
Yeah.
Just two bats, a bat each side of the screen. It's a little graphic bar. Exactly. And a net in the middle. Two players. Or I don't know if you could play against the computer back then, but I
think that's true. Maybe it was the first one was only it didn't have any AI artificial. That's something you can touch on in another part is AI because you're getting into that. But right back in the day there was nothing, was there? What was there before computers and all that? What do people do?
Well, what did we do? Board games, I suppose. And lots of reading. Monotony, yeah. So I've got a little clip here, listen.
Wow.
That's actually from an early Pong game. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. Cool, isn't it?
So was it taken from ping pong, do you think?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Or was ping pong taken from that? Because it was table tennis
first,
or was it...
It was taken from ping pong, yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow, interesting. So that was these office types sitting around, what can we do? I'm so bored. Let's do something fun, but we're not allowed to leave our little room. So they invented that, and little did they know they'd unleashed something which was going to take over the world and make kids stay at home and not go out and play, and make older kids like me stay home and not go out and work.
Yeah. So yeah,
And
so the games that came after that were so we're talking about the early 80s now, were things like well, they had block graphics, so just little chunky blocks of white on a black background, and we still had green screens back then as well, didn't we?
that's right. Yeah.
But there was another game called Angler, which was very popular, which was where
Fishing game.
Yeah, fishing game. Yeah, and it's based on trigonometry, so it was coded with a bit of trigonometry, and you have to estimate the correct angle to launch your to cast your rod to try to catch a fish.
Wow.
But yeah,
That sounds a bit boring to me. I've never been a
yes,
fishing type person.
I think
But
it was. I think it was actually quite boring. Yeah.
but I think to the salty sea dogs out there, it's probably there was no trout. It was good.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean, but okay.
Sorry.
But then we went on to the coin-op games. So yeah, jumping around, and they were also called platform games, weren't they? So you had to jump around platforms and collect falling coins or collect coins that were around the place.
Oh, yeah. What about stuff like Pac-Man? Wasn't that earlier than Space Invaders? Did they come out first?
Well, the thing is, there were arcade machines in shops and pubs and stuff, weren't there, before home computers?
Yeah.
But when we got home computers, we started having those platform games and that sort of thing. But you could do Space Invaders. Yeah, Space Invaders was very popular, wasn't it? That was on an arcade machine. You could find that in your local newsagents or,
fish and chip shop.
Yeah, exactly. I think we used to have them in pubs and stuff as well.
Yeah. What's that? Is that Space Invaders?
Yeah.
Wow, that's what it sounded like. Is that the original?
I don't know if it's the original, but it's yeah.
That was good. I always I used to be good at it, but then you shoot the aliens out the sky, and there's a mothership that goes up in the top and trying to hit for extra points. But as the aliens get lower to the screen, they get faster, and you had these little shelters you could hide under, which get slowly zapped away. It was a classic game. Even today, it's still good, and they've updated that game through the years, and they've made more and more. But it's still the same old kind of simplistic game, but it's still fun. It's one of the best kind of chasing high score games. And there were variations of that game as well. I forgot the name of it. They were those were great. And they turned into scrolling shoot 'em ups from there. I think they inspired the games that I can't think of any R-Type. Scrolling shoot 'em up. Games which are still popular today. Yeah, and then platforms, like you say, once people realised, damn, people love these games. They're putting money into these machines, and why don't we release things that play games in the home?
That's right, and that's what they did, which we'll come on to in a minute.
All right.
What I wanted to talk about was game changers. So, what were the big games that you remember that changed everything? When we mentioned coin ops, I was going to say Donkey Kong. Do you remember Donkey Kong?
Yeah, that was the first iteration of Mario, wasn't it? Because wasn't it Mario that climbs up to rescue the princess from the
that's a platform.
chucking the barrels down.
Yeah,
that was a good game. Very tricky, pixel perfect. You have to be with some of that.
Yeah, see, I think that was a game changer that I hadn't written down. So it's good that you mentioned that because it was very, very popular. Mario became an iconic sort of cartoon character, didn't he? Known across the world.
Yeah, well, Nintendo still sells crap loads of their latest Switch or whatever, which is a Mario. People love it, and it's kind of, for me, it's a bit. As I'll get onto later, the games I like, but they're fun. I mean, I had an NES at one point, which we'll talk about. I don't think you were there at that time, were you? You phased out of games, and suddenly, what's this sudden resurgence of games? And why are we talking about games? Because I thought you hated them.
Well, you know why? It's because I hadn't played a game for about 20 years until
Yeah.
about three weeks ago when you said, Simon, let's have a gaming session.
And
But
I'll get you some free codes of some games. Don't forget.
yeah, keep that
And I
quietly.
thought, yeah, and I thought, wow, let's and we're going to do a special pod. We might as well advertise this now.
That was
Probably
it.
next month, and where you'll see some live videos of us playing some games
Yeah, we're
together
going to
with
do that as an
Marshy,
extra
with
with
Swampy as
Swampy. Yeah,
well.
killing
Yeah.
zombies. But yeah, the
Killing
reason this
zombies,
came up.
shooting stuff.
The reason this came about is because I was doing an AI course at the university, and I needed to get a new laptop with a higher spec for doing AI stuff. And AI spec happens to be the same as gaming laptop spec.
Yeah,
So
but when
I
they say
ended up buying a
when they
gaming
say
laptop.
when they say gaming laptop, the games we are playing are very dated now, and they probably run on
Yeah,
an ancient machine still. But
yeah,
yeah, now you're up to the time, Simon. You maybe I've
yeah,
hooked you back into gaming again. Sorry about that.
yeah. Well, we're there. But yes, it's been a long time, hasn't it? And it showed on my score when we were killing zombies, didn't it? I think I killed
Yeah,
about six zombies, and Marshy killed about, what was it, 12 or something, and you killed about 30.
yeah. Well, I think we're going to do a different game first. We're going to do we played a different game called Armor,
Mm.
originally called Operation Flashpoint, which is one of my faves,
Mm.
uh,
Yeah,
used by the army. But
yeah.
going back to the first.
Yes, what I wanted to mention was Elite. Do you remember Elite?
Yes, of course. That was a fantastic game. That was a game changer for sure.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
when
Everybody
that
loved
came out,
that,
there
yeah.
was nothing like that game. I mean, that had so
It
much
was so big.
control and
It was
command,
so
and
big,
yeah,
wasn't it? And you had to use nearly all of the keys on the keyboard for different
mm,
things. I
that's
mean,
right.
we used to play it at my mate's house at lunchtimes. He lived just around the corner from the school, so we could get nearly a
Wow.
full hour on Elite every day.
Was that on
And we
what was that on the BBC or?
I think it was a BBC Micro.
Wow.
Um,
And didn't the game come with a big like overlay which you put over the keyboard so you can see
yeah,
all the
that's
key?
right.
Because there's so many, you can't remember all the buttons.
That's it. Yeah. And so
So
we
you,
used to, because of all the buttons, there was three of us, I think sometimes four, and we would take a, a group of buttons each, and one person would be the pilot, one person would be the captain, one
mm,
person would be the weapons controller or something like that, and we'd all take a bunch of keys and do our various bits
that's cool.
as needed.
I never got into that. I think at that time I was more into simplistic games, but our first games machine, my dad got a Spectrum, and me and my brother used to play some games together. Even the single player games, we used to share like the keyboard. Like one person would fire, one person would control the ship. If it's a spaceship
Mm,
game, and then there were two-player games we got into later on. But yeah, that's some good memories actually. Me and my brother playing games together. Um, he liked football games, simulators and things later on.
mm.
But we played the very first game I ever played actually. So Elite was the first game you ever played, was it, Simon?
No, definitely not. No,
No. Oh,
no. But this was when I was about 14, 15, and
all right.
first games I'd played were as early as when I was about 6 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we had the
Because
first one of the first home computers.
right. Because you must have been playing games before me. Because I don't think I got a Spectrum till I was about 8 or 9.
Yeah, that was a
My
bit
dad
later.
got
Well,
yeah.
the first machine we had was a ZX81. That was a
Oh God, yeah.
so that
That was
was a
the
spec.
earlier Spectrum.
That was the second Spectrum. The first one was a
Mm.
ZX80, and it was the first one that was popular to have in the home.
Wow.
And there were only two games available. One was called Mothership, and the other one was called City Patrol. And I know there's clips of those on YouTube, so
Mm.
you're probably going to
Yeah.
show them right now
I'll
on the
show some.
video
Oh, look at
after the
that.
edit.
It's what was the first one called? Mothership.
Mothership and
Oh, and look,
City
there's
Patrol.
City Patrol.
Mm.
But I remember there's a film about Clive Sinclair and his
Mm.
rivalry with the Commodore 64 because
Mm.
which was the American machine, and
Mm.
that was quite interesting. But yeah, Clive Sinclair. He was a bit of a maverick,
Yeah,
and he had a short fuse as well. But his computer, his little rubber keyed, his successor to the ZX81 was called the Spectrum 48K, and it had
yeah,
a rubber keyboard, and
yeah,
it was very cute. And
yeah.
it was awesome, and that's the first one I ever got. And my dad got it, not expecting me to play games. My dad hated games all his life.
Mm.
He thought they were a waste of time.
Well, the
And
ZX81 had a touch keyboard,
oh yeah, like a
which is
thin strip.
so far ahead of its time, like a membrane one. Yeah,
Wow,
it's one of the first
wow,
membrane keyboards, if not the first one.
that's
So it's well
amazing.
ahead of its time.
But
Yeah.
it didn't get worn out easily.
No, no, it didn't. But it used to get
Ah.
hot, and you could smell the burning plastic, the
Oh, I,
melting plastic.
I bet they'd be
And
worth a bit today if you had one in good condition.
yeah, and it had a 1K RAM pack that you stuck on the back
Wow,
with
1K,
Velcro to extend the memory. 1 kilobyte
1K,
of memory. Yeah,
blimey.
which, well, I don't know. You probably get more than that on a health monitor ring,
Mm.
finger ring.
Even
Now,
even like a document file is like a
mm,
20,000
yeah,
K or
exactly.
something.
Yeah.
Uh, but but yeah, my first computer was a Spectrum, and I remember there was two games, like your two games. There was a brick breaker game.
Mm,
Where you bounce the ball off a bat, a bit like Pong, but vertically, and you destroy the bricks. And there was another game which is called Horace Goes Skiing,
mm.
and there's a little blue geezer called Horace, and you got to bring him to go through all the poles, ski
I
downwards.
remember
That was
that.
good fun. You remember
I
that one?
never, yeah, I never played it, but I remember seeing the adverts for the game. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
There was recently a game that came out called Horatio Goes Snowboarding. I remember seeing
Mm,
that. And it's an actual game that's been released, and obviously that was the inspiration for back of my very first game. So maybe a lot of people played that one.
mm.
And I played it, and I didn't have a joystick. It was played on the keys for years. I just had
That's
the
right. Yeah,
Spectrum, and
yeah.
I got a joystick eventually, and I got more into like gaming. And some of the games come out the Spectrum were still some of the best. Graphically, obviously, they were very
Yeah, well, this
date,
is the thing that
dated,
I
and
wanted to mention about games and the evolution of
mm,
games is that those early games, because the
mm,
graphics was pretty rubbish and the sound was pretty rubbish, um, playability wasn't brilliant. But what they used to focus on in development of the games was the gameplay. So they were really,
yeah,
really addictive, and the gameplay was really engrossing, and you just got sort of completely enveloped by the game while you were playing it.
yeah, it was all in the
Um,
gameplay. So addictive, and
yeah,
the graphics were still good, and the sounds were good. For looking back now, they're a little bit awful, but
yeah.
certain
Well,
games like 3D.
sorry, let's just have a listen to another little tune. That is an example of a chip tune.
What is that?
So,
What one?
well, that is. I don't think that is actually from a game. That's actually something that someone has generated recently, I think. But yeah, so the earliest actual music you got in games, was called. They were called chip tunes because they were the chips that were the microprocessors in these computers actually had this
Mm,
onboard sound thing in the chip, so you can make
yeah,
music with it, and that's what a chip tune sounds like. So that's what the
that's
earliest music
fantastic.
sounds like. Mm.
It's still great. It's a certain time and age, but it's still brilliant. I love it. I love that
Mm.
kind of stuff. Um, yeah, the Spectrum graphics. The problem with the graphics was they had this. The colors didn't blend, so you had this color thing called color clash. So
Mm.
if you have your two different colors, they kind of there, and the character will change color. There were certain things which graphically were lacking, and then
Mm.
but some of the games I played on the Spectrum, I remember Boulder Dash was
Mm.
amazing. That was a
Yeah.
simple game where you collect the diamonds, and I love this game because one of the earlier games I played, uh, probably after Horace Goes Skiing, but my friend had a BBC which she played at Elite on, and they had a game called Repton. I think I talked about this in an earlier pod, and it's similar. Boulder Dash was like collect all the diamonds, get out the exit, and don't get squashed by the boulders. That game, what I loved about that game is it had it was called Boulder Dash Construction Kit, and you could make your own levels.
Yeah.
You could actually create your own levels, and that hooked me. And I spent God knows how much time making levels, and I wasn't just playing a game; I was creating stuff, and it felt good.
Yeah, I had a game like that where you could make your own levels, and it was blooming brilliant. But there was a game that we had on well, I didn't have a Commodore 64. It was called the 64 Plus 4. So it was called a Commodore 60. So it was called a Commodore Plus 4. And,
was it better than the Commodore 64?
Well, it just had 4 built-in software systems,
Never heard of
like
that.
spreadsheets and a word processor and other stuff.
The Spectrum they had a Spectrum 128.
Yeah.
And then the Commodore 64 there was a Sam Coupe. I remember that was the last ditch machine from Commodore, the Sam Coupe, and that crashed and burned. But
What
then
about
I didn't know.
Amstrad? Amstrad.
Yeah, well, I did some work experience actually in the Microland in Waterlooville where I live, and I worked there, and they had all the computers and Amstrad, and I had a quick go on it. But yeah, it felt like kind of in the middle between Commodore 64 and Spectrum for me.
Yeah.
So I went, because my neighbour got a Commodore 64. I sold my Spectrum and got that, and then I said before in another pod, the games I thought were great, and the sound was better, the graphics were better, but it was missing that magic of the Spectrum somehow had. But I never really got into Amstrad games. I didn't really know if they had any game changes.
I think wasn't it called the CPC 64 or something? I can't remember now. I think Amstrad was one of the first to have a built-in cassette recorder.
Oh, right, built into it,
because
yeah.
The games used to be supplied on cassette, didn't they?
I think the Spectrum 128 had the built-in tape recorder as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Could be right.
Yeah, but the Commodore had a separate one.
Yeah, my old ZX81 had a separate one because we just used like an old Ferguson flatbed tape recorder.
Yeah, you did.
And you just had to plug the earphone socket into the microphone input socket on the ZX81. But you had to get the volume right. We had a little like Tipex or something mark on the side of the volume control. So you had to get the volume control just right for it to work, otherwise it wouldn't function.
Well, my dad had this like tape-to-tape recorder, and my friend at school brought a game round. He just bought, and I quickly put it in. I got a blank tape, and I did my first ever piracy. I recorded it tape to tape, and it worked. So I was like, my mate was like annoyed at me. He's like, "Oh, I just bought that, and you copied it." I was like,
So look, we've darted about a bit, but let me just run through some names of computer games that I think were game changers, right? And see if any of these jump out to you.
All right.
I've got, apart from obviously Donkey Kong and Elite that we mentioned, I've got Monkey Island, Prince of Persia.
Yeah, for sure.
Flashback.
Yeah.
Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
Lemmings.
Yes.
And I think that's all I came up with.
Well, I've got a few more that are definite game changers. Tetris is the big one.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that changed puzzle gaming in a different direction, more than Lemmings in a way. Lemmings was great, though. But Tetris was the big seller. Of course, there's Minecraft. Minecraft still today is one of the biggest game kids are playing, and it's a total Lego kind of block sandbox. And kids are addicted. My mate's little girl, every time I pop up on PlayStation, she's like, "Hey, let's play Minecraft." Oh my god! But no, she's great. And I try.
Do the kids know what Lemmings is?
Probably not. No, they don't. Not these days.
Yeah. So we'll have to put a screenshot of that up on the video. So
yeah, I'll do. Yeah, I'll do all the.
So for anyone who didn't know what Lemmings was, there's a number of different levels, loads of levels, and you basically have these little lemming characters appearing out of a hole or something, or they were dropping from the top of the screen.
From a little hatch, yeah.
Yeah, and
up to 100. That was the thing. There was up to 100 on screen at once, which was the first time you could get that many.
And they march around the screen, don't they? Basically towards the exit. And yet there are various pitfalls and hazards for them, and
That's
those
right.
killed them.
Yeah.
And you had to just get as many as you could to the exit safely.
Yeah,
And
that's right. And you
and when
can
they
command
die,
different.
they put their
Yeah.
hands on their head, and their
Oh
head
no!
shakes, and they go, oh no,
And
yeah,
explode into
and then they
fragments.
explode.
But yeah, you had a certain number of different lemmings, different controls or commands you
Mm,
could give your lemmings. So you got your blocker, and you
mm,
get your client builder, and you get your
mm.
parachute one, climber, and you can use them to create a path that's safe for all the lemmings to get over. And you can
That's right.
block this. You can cordon off some lemmings and block them. It
Yeah.
was good. It was fun. But I just like to nuke the whole. If you, there's a nuclear bomb
That's
button. If you
right.
double click it, you can just nuke 100 lemmings. I used to just have fun
Yeah.
doing that,
And
just
they just get
destroying them all.
a number above their heads, and it's a countdown, isn't
Yeah,
it?
countdown,
10, 9,
and then
8, and then they all explode.
bam! It was a marvel.
I think there was a time
Yeah,
limit as well, wasn't there? Was there a time limit?
probably. Yeah, I think there
Mm,
was. Yeah, all games had time limits back then. Games were
mm,
hard, now there's always an easy mode.
mm.
But yeah, other game changes. There's through games like Metal
Yeah.
Gear. Those were brilliant. The Japanese guy who wanted to be a screenwriter,
Mm,
just wanted to make movies. He's like somehow got fall into this rabbit hole of games, and he wrote a game called Metal Gear. I'm not sure if
mm,
that was his first game, but it came out on a MSX system, or I've forgotten the name of it. It's some kind of home console in Japan, I think. And it had a story, and it was the first proper stealth game where you have to not kill anyone, not get seen. And he kept making these games, and he went into PlayStation. He made Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear was the
mm.
first game, then Metal Gear 2. Then he did Metal Gear Solid, and through the PlayStation 2, 3, 4, he did all these Metal Gear games, and it continued this story, and it became so cinematic. And they were honestly, these games had half an hour cutscenes. It was more movie than game, and a lot of people were put off by that. But I kind of loved it because I'm a story kind of person, always have been, and I got so into this world that he created, and he was a genius. The way he used music, the way he used the very cinematic camera work and acting, and getting real actors, and then that culminated in a game called Death Stranding, which came out about 3 years ago. And it's a stunning game, but it's very divisive, because the game is basically you're like a porter, and you've got to deliver boxes from one place to another and start reconnecting these places. But there's monsters and stuff, and there's it's not just walking. But a lot of people were put off by it, and I thought it was genius. The music, the graphics, fantastic, almost like watching a real film.
Mm.
And he's about to bring out the second one, and I believe that comes out in 3 months. I believe for about June 2025, it's supposed to
Mm.
come out, and I think that's going to be the next game changer, because the music from it, which we can't play unfortunately on this pod, so we get struck.
Mm.
But look it up. Search Death Stranding 2.
Mm.
The trailer. There's like a 10-minute trailer. Just shows you how even the trailers are long. But it's fantastic. And this to me, he's one of the geniuses of game design certainly in my lifetime. Yeah.
Cool.
But going back, Prince of Persia. You mentioned Prince of Persia. I love those games, and
Yeah.
the original Prince of Persia was the first game to use motion capture to really capture a human being.
Yeah. And I know something about this, right? Because I remember
Yeah.
reading an article years ago about this, and it was called rotoscaping.
That's
And
right. Yeah, I
was a
remember that.
technique. It was a technique that had been developed 100 years earlier by these guys who were pioneering animation.
God.
And the first
Oh
game
yeah,
it was,
because the early Disney stuff will use that as well, didn't it? Like Beauty and the Beast
it
and
may have done, yeah. And the
yeah.
first game that used rotoscoping was called Karateka, which is a karate game in 1985.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was the first one, right? So it wasn't.
Yeah. And then the second
Was that
one,
the same guy? That was
it
the same guy.
It was the same guy. I can't remember his name.
Jordan Mechner.
Was it same guy? And he then perfected that technique on Prince of Persia.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, because they did the first couple of Prince of Persia games. The third one was a 3D one, which was a bit janky. I quite liked it. But then they released another 3 Prince of Persia games, which are known as the Sands of Time trilogy. Those games are absolutely amazing. The first, well, maybe all 3 of those are in my top 10 games of all time.
Really?
They were, yeah, the
Well,
story.
it's interesting you say that because we're going to do a little top 5 later of our favourite games in
Yeah,
our
I
golden
definitely.
thread.
Okay, yeah, those are up there.
So
The
have a
story, the
think about
gameplay.
let's do 3 each. So have a think about your top 3 games.
Of history, all time games. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Well, we're chatting.
Mm.
The other thing I was
All
going
right.
to mention is that was a game changer because we're talking about techniques, aren't we now, with rotoscoping and that. So
Mm.
is multiplayer games.
Yeah. Okay.
Because that was not possible with the early games, was it? The earliest games, they ended up having 2-player. You could have 2-player, or you could have 1-player against the computer.
Yeah.
But we didn't really get proper multiplayer games till much later.
Yeah. I mean, because it was nice to have your home computer and sit on your own and play with your joystick in the privacy of your own room. But it's always better to play with someone else and have someone else play with you.
Sorry.
But yeah, there was.
Actually, I should have used this one, really. Yeah, he's a joystick.
He needs to play with himself.
Yeah, I was going to say the first multiplayer game was actually was only a 2-player, but so not really a proper multiplayer, but it was in 1952 in some laboratory.
Wow.
Somebody did a noughts and crosses game. Yeah, a 2-player noughts and crosses game.
Oh yeah, okay, so that's before
1952.
So games back then. And if you ever talk to an old guy, he's like, "Oh, we didn't have all your games." Yes, you did. You had noughts and bloody crosses. So don't say you didn't have games, all right?
But multiplayer games really didn't take off until 1985. That's when we really started getting, mid 80s. And I remember the best one I remember was called Hired Guns, and you could have 4 players with the screen split into quarters. And I think we had 2 people on mouse, 2 people on keyboard, and 2 people on a mouse each.
Wow.
My mates used to come around for a Hired Guns and Pizza night. That was when I was at school.
Cool.
So I would have been 15, 14.
I have heard of. Which computer was that on?
That would have been Amiga 1200.
Oh, Amiga. Now you're talking Amiga. That was the next thing after Commodore 64. Staying on Commodore 64, actually, there were some great 2-player games on the Spectrum, first of all. The best game I thought on the Spectrum for 2-player fun was a game called Target Renegade. And it was a beat 'em up. And it was brilliant. And the Spectrum was by far the best version. I didn't play the Amstrad one if there was one. But the Commodore 64 one was only 1 player. And that was my favourite game on the Spectrum for ages, because my cousins used to come around. We used to all play Target Renegade together. You can only play two players, but we used to take turns, and it's like a scrolling beat 'em up, like Double Dragon. Brilliant. You could fly and kick people off motorbikes and wield sledgehammers and all that. It's great.
Sorry, go on, carry on.
Just quickly, I got the Commodore 64. I got Target Renegade again on the Commodore 64. The graphics are amazing, but where's the 2-player mode? It's only 1 player. So I was gutted. That was the first time my Commodore 64 let me down. And there's certain games which the Spectrum did better, but the Commodore 64 had its own amazing games. So yeah.
So I was going to say, have there ever been any good film conversion games?
Now
you're
talking.
I'm just going to mention Tomb Raider, because that went the other way around, didn't it? Tomb Raider was a game before it was a film.
Yeah. Before it was definitely back in the Spectrum Commodore 64 games. It was definitely that way round, where you had the trying to milk cash cow the films. Like I remember playing on the Commodore 64 Death Wish, the game, which was fun. Oh God, there was every film you can
Batman. They've
think of.
done Batman. They've done Indiana
Batman. There's
Jones.
loads of
Star
Batman games was
Wars.
good.
It was good,
Yeah,
was it?
so there was a Star Wars game on the Spectrum, and it was I think it wasn't called Star Wars because they had a copyright problem, but you had to fly this X-wing through blow up the Death Star or something, and the explosion when you do it was fantastic. That was a great game. But yeah, there were tons of
Because
there was there was
I had this thing in my head that all film conversion games are flops. You know, are not very good.
there was
I don't really remember playing a good one.
there were very few that, but yeah, usually they were done by some of these hack software houses that used to knock 10 games out a year and or 20 or something back then, and
Mm,
there was a few of these companies on the Commodore 64 Spectrum that the film times were never that good. I think the Batman one on the Commodore 64 was actually pretty good because it was like an adventure kind of game, a bit of a puzzle kind of game,
I
not your
remember. I remember
generic.
Batman being touted as a good game. It got a high percentage
Mm,
score
yeah, well, every
in the
system had its own
ratings.
kind of. Well, it depends which one because every kind of system had its own Batman. I think US Gold was the company that did a lot of the movie tie-in games, and
Mm,
sometimes occasionally they did a good one, but usually it was. Um, There was I remember on the Spectrum there was a game called The Great Escape, based on the famous movie, which was really good, where you had
mm,
to, a bit like you had to follow the routine of, in the prison of war camp, but every so often at night you could try and sneak out and start digging the tunnel. It was
mm.
really sort of faithful and fun, and if you got caught, or the searchlights went on, and yeah, that was another great game on the Spectrum. Commodore 64 was School Days, where you had to.
Mm,
It was similar, where you had to participate in your school, but your real aim is to get into the safe and change your school report to an A somehow.
mm.
And yeah, they were brilliant, those games. But yeah, oh man, so many good games.
Yeah,
Gauntlet
definitely.
was another one I loved for
Oh,
two
that was
player.
good. Yeah, yeah. That was a
Yeah,
top down, wasn't it? A top down style.
that's right. Yeah, and you had
Yeah.
there were 500 levels.
Was it?
There's
Wow.
yeah, and you had to get through there, and you can play two player. You can choose the elf or the wizard or the barbarian. I think it was warrior.
Mm,
And that game, me and my friend Peter, we used to have endless arguments over because there was one level where you can freeze each other. If you shoot each other, you freeze them. And I used to keep
mm.
freezing him and there's this creature called Death, which you couldn't kill. You have to run away from. And I used to freeze him just as Death was coming. He used to get killed. We used to get very real life fights after that.
Mm. What?
Um,
Proper like that.
oh, yeah. My brother, we played a game called Whizball, which was really weird and different, where you had to paint the world with these little round creature and little cat thing. That
Mm,
Whizball, that was one of my favourites back in the day.
mm,
And games evolved. Games
mm.
evolved. Even the later Commodore 64 games, like Creatures and the Turrican games, they were brilliant. And then we went. Then it was about Amiga time. We went to Amiga, and the games just that was a huge leap forward. The Amiga, I think.
Oh, I forgot. I forgot one that I've just remembered,
Mm.
which GTA.
Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we have to mention
still
it,
one of
really.
still the biggest selling game of all time. And the original ones were top-down ones, weren't they? They were
Mm,
set in England. Or
mm.
there was one called GTA London, I remember.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was the same kind of thing, but it was kind of top-down. And actually they're preparing. I think is it next year that GTA 6 comes out, and
Is it
apparently it's going to
really?
be it's going to cost £100 to buy it.
And I
And
should have also done this because there was a
yeah,
bit of that involved, wasn't there?
that's another. Those games are a definite game change.
Oh, what
That
about
series is a
Syndicate?
definite
Did
game
you ever
changer.
play Syndicate?
Was that on the Amiga?
Yeah,
I think it was. Yeah, I think I did. That was a top-down one, wasn't it? And you could play that two-player.
yeah,
I'm
but it
pretty
was
sure.
3D. It was like looking at an
Oh,
angle from above. So
oh
you
yeah,
basically
that's
had
it.
guys who were like agents walking around in trench
Mm.
coats with lots of weapons, climbing
Yeah,
in cars. You could run over people and smash into things and shoot people, and it was quite bloody.
yeah,
Yeah, but it was good.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good one. On the Amiga, Oh, there was some really good games. I had a few games. Monkey Island, of course, which you touched on, is
Mm,
probably the first point and click game I ever played, and it's still
mm,
one of the best ever made. Really, the humor, the story, the
yeah,
graphics, fantastic.
it was good.
And
I
they
loved playing that. Yeah,
yeah, the original one didn't have any voice acting, but the guy who played Guybrush, the main
mm.
character, he went back and redid the first game. They remastered it with his voice, so you can get the first Monkey Island now with all the voice acting, which is great.
Ooh, is it
Um,
is it the best computer game character name of all time?
Guybrush,
Guybrush Threepwood.
that's right. Yeah, probably. It's yeah, and it's funny because everyone gets his name wrong and makes fun
Yeah,
of his name, and they've
yeah,
got stupid names themselves.
yeah.
Uh, those
You
games are
know,
great. The first three were amazing.
we mentioned Syndicate, GTA. Was there? I never played it, to be honest, but was there like bikini clad girlies in it and stuff like that as well?
Well, the first one you could. It's very small sprites, so you have to like steal cars and do your things, and the police chase you. But it was all. But I think it was the third one. Sorry, the third one was the first one to have full 3D, and that was on
Mm,
the PlayStation 2. And
mm.
yeah, they certainly made it. You could get up to all kinds of things. The
They
ladies of the night
they raunched
could
it
get
up a
into.
bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was the third one or one of the Vice City or
Speaking of
one of
which,
the spin-offs. But the ladies of the night could get in your car, and you could
uh, so you could
spend
do
your
a
money.
bit of curb crawling.
Mm.
So speaking of which, there was a famous game quite early on that was really popular, and I think it was supposed to be quite. I never played it, but it was supposed to be quite a rude game. With this character who used to sleep with various
Oh, are
women that
you
he
talking about
encountered.
Leisure Suit Larry?
Leisure Suit Larry,
Yeah, yeah, I played those.
and his character was a bit like.
Wow, 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 it's very nice.
A bit like
Is it
him.
nice? Is it
But
nice? Yeah,
yeah,
yes.
I never played them, but yeah, that's
I played
very popular.
yeah, I played the Leisure Suit Larry games. Actually, I've got them on. I got them not because I'm a pervy, but I'm interested in the. And it's quite funny because you start the first game and it tries to figure out your age by asking you some IQ questions,
Hmm.
and then it figures out if you're old enough to play it. And if it kicks you off if you can't answer them, and some of the
Mm.
questions are quite dated now, so it's like, oh, damn. But it's a bit like it's basically Monkey Island, and your aim is to lose your virginity or sleep with
Mm.
a girl or something, and you're
Right.
this alcoholic guy, and you've got like an unzip button, you can take all your clothes off in public. It's quite funny. And they made a few of them. They made 6 or 7 of these games, and the last one was a few years ago. And they're fun. The comedy's good. They're harmless. There's no nudity or anything in them or
Mm.
anything bad. It's just smutty, like
Mm.
Carry On kind of stuff. You know. Oh, mate.
So we've been talking for ages now. So, but we've got loads to get through. So,
Mm.
let's talk about. I'll tell you what. We'll have a golden nugget in a minute if you want to cue that one up. But in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
meantime, let us talk about computer game magazines.
Yes, two spring to my mind straight away that I
Go on.
followed religiously, and I've got them actually as PDFs on my hard drive, all of them.
Have you?
Crash was the Spectrum magazine. I love that magazine. And Zazat 64 was the Commodore 64 magazine, and they did all the
Uh,
reviews, cheat codes on all the gossip and stuff of games.
well,
Yeah, those were the.
my cousin, who he was an older cousin, and he wrote one of the earliest commercial computer games. I don't know what the name of it was. I never
Yeah,
did
you've
know
said
it,
this
but
before. You got to find out
yeah,
what it is.
but he used to get computer game magazines,
Mm.
and he used to send them to us when he'd finished with them. So we used to.
Oh, right.
I think it might have been Sinclair magazine.
And
Um,
CVG, computer and video games. That
yeah,
was a big
because
one.
what they used to do was print lists and lists of all the code
Right.
for like every month you'd have a list of a code list for a game, and you
Oh
could
God, yeah,
type in the
those
code.
in Basic. Yeah, and the
Yeah,
pokes. And there's a
yeah,
whole bloody page sometimes if you want to cheat the game.
yeah,
It took like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to write it all out. I
exactly.
couldn't be bothered with
Yeah,
that.
So we used to do that with the ZX81 when we were. Well, we must have been. I mean, I was 6 years old when we got ZX81. That was 1982. So we must have, like, before we were 10, we were writing computer games or typing computer games in, at least, and learning basic.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's amazing. But computer
that
game
was
magazines were fantastic. And I think, I don't know if this is right, but Computer Gaming World might have been the first one in 1981. Not sure.
All right. Yeah. Well, that was all well and good. Back then, we could pretend that computers were there to help us with our homework, but the people behind making
Which
these
is
things
what Phil did, just so everybody knows.
Yeah, of course.
His dad bought him his first computer so that he could do his homework on it, and he just spent ages playing games instead.
Yeah, wow. But then the people said, hey, no one wants to do their homework on these things. Let's just strip away the keyboard. Let's release something we're going to call a console. So you just play games. There's no pretentious nonsense. It's a games machine. And that's what we're touched on in the second half. Well, I mean, the second
Yes, we will, yeah.
Small segment of what we got left. After a golden nugget, I guess.
Well, yeah. The only thing I was just going to mention before we do that is...
And now it's time for our special feature, the Golden Nugget.
That is time for the Golden Nugget.
And this is continuation of before we were talking about, because it's kind of computer related. You were the first person I ever knew to have your own website, Simon. And I interviewed you about this back in your car 30 years ago. That's how long ago you had this website.
You'll have to share your screen.
Let's touch on this.
He's trying to find the share screen button. I need to stop sharing first. There you go.
Oh, that's right.
Otherwise, our listeners won't hear it.
Right, you ready?
Yeah, go for it.
Talk about computers time. PC. Eddie has got his own website, which is rather good, and it's the Simon Eddy website. And tell me more about this lovely website, Mr. Simon Eddy.
Well, it's funny you should mention that, Phil, because it's a very good site. It's full of lots of things you all would like to do.
How would you access this site? You need a PC, and it needs to be on the internet and the World Wide Web. But how the hell would you access this site? What would you type in to search for it?
If you were to type in something for this website, if you were to use a search engine, you could type the words Simon, Eddie, John possibly, guitar, music, and you could probably type the word cats.
Z or the S?
With a C.
Yeah,
at the end.
Yeah. And
the next question is...
No.
What would you type in if you wanted to go to the exact location?
No, what I was going to ask you was... Yeah, to type into go into the exact location, what would you type?
I would type http://boulderslove.com. No, hang on, www.com. Boulderslove.
Okay.
What the hell was all that about?
We didn't learn much about your website, but this is a long clip, so we'll keep going in the next podcast, and maybe we'll see if we can learn a bit more about you. But yeah, you had your own site, and it's quite interesting that you had a website back in those days.
What
30
year would
years
that
ago.
have been? Do you know what year that was?
30 years ago, so 1994, 1995, something like that. Mid-90s, I'd say.
Yeah,
so that was and that's around the time that got my first console. The NES.
It would have been mid-90s, yeah.
Yeah, I got an NES. I just, you know what happened? I was at the Portsmouth iTech, I think, doing my iTech stuff. So yeah, this is before that. Yeah, but this is around that time, maybe, because that was when I was doing the work at Spirit. I think when we were talking was a bit later after the iTech times. But around that time, yeah, I was walking past I think it was Dixon's or Rumbelows or one of those kind of electrical goods shops, and there was a beautiful girl dressed like a pixie in the shop. I was like, "What is that girl doing.
I've got to have me one of those.
And she was selling like Nintendo NES had been around a while, but she was selling. I remember this. She was selling a Nintendo with Super Mario Brothers 3 included, £30.
Mm.
I was like, wow. And she looked at me like, buy one. I was like, yeah.
Mm. Very good.
And I think she was dressed like Zelda, thinking back now. Or she could have been dressed like Princess Peach. I'm not sure, but it did the trick. I was like, straight to the counter, take my money.
Nice.
And then I was like, why did I buy an NES? And I played Super Mario, and it's actually brilliant. I liked it, and I got some other games. I got Zelda, and there is a little market in my high street, Waterlooville, and the guy used to sell games for £5 each. And last year, I still had some of these games, and I looked on eBay. I had this game. I had one of the, what was it called? It's on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, one of these games I had. It was a rare NES game. It was selling for like £200, just the cartridge without the box or anything. And I had the box. So a Bucky O'Hare, it was called Bucky O'Hare. And I sold it, and someone offered me 150 quid straight away. I was like, I could wait and get more even, but I said, sod it, I'll let him have it for that. Because it only cost me a £5. So I was quite chuffed. I was like, damn, hang on. If you've got Nintendo games in the attic, dig them out, man. You could get some good money on eBay for these things. Another game I loved on the NES was a game called Maniac Mansion, which is another point-and-click LucasArts game. Brilliant. Battletoads versus Double Dragon. Still one of my favourite all-time beat-em-ups. Two-player, fun. So many good games on the NES. And now I've got a retro sort of Doobery, and it's got like 2,000 NES games on. So yeah, when my old mate comes over, sometimes we slap that on and play some old classics. They're still great games, NES.
Yeah. So we've actually talked a lot about all the computers and consoles and stuff, haven't we? So is there anything we missed? I suppose really what was interesting looking at it from a top-down point of view is the sort of battle between arcade-style consoles and computers.
Yeah. Nowadays it still goes on.
The IBM PC, the IBM compatible PC emerged, didn't it, and took over from the BBC Micro and the BBC Electron.
Yeah.
The ones with the BBCs then got PCs, and the ones who had Speckies and Amstrads sort of got in, and Commodore 64, they all sort of went into Amiga 500 and Amiga 1200, and
that's right.
A few weirdos who had the Amiga 600. And so what else was it? I suppose the big thing was, now we have internet gaming, don't we? Obviously Xbox, PlayStation, and on PC, internet gaming is now massive because the internet can actually support that now.
I got into after NES. I went into PlayStation, which I've remained since. I went through the PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, and now 5. I recently got a 5 just last week actually, and VR gaming, which is amazing, which is the next level of immersion. PSVR 2 is fantastic, but there's a PC master race that say don't play consoles. You get the best if you spend enough money, you can get an amazing gaming rig, which has got the most up to date and the best graphics. But they do have a lot more fidgeting around and with settings, and more things can go wrong. At least with a console, you slap the game in. Although no games these days work out the box, they're always patched. And there's no more boxes, it's all digital. So things are changing a lot. The landscape is now you no longer own games, you only rent them. If you look at when you buy a game online, it says, no, you don't own it. You're just it's a lease. So anytime they can say no, take their game away. Yeah. And all the games online games I don't like, because they cut the servers after a couple of years, usually, if it doesn't do well, and that's gone. So I'm a single-player story game, and getting onto my favourite games will be mostly story kind of games that over the years that have hooked me, because I'm a story kind of guy.
We'll do that in just a minute, a golden thread. I've just got one more thing to mention.
Yeah, all right.
And let's listen to this first.
Dada Mama, it's time for the golden thread feature.
Oh, we're so professional these days with our little jingles. And well, I still call them jingles, but There's a
I'm
different
waiting
name
for my
them, but,
T-shirt. Just waiting for my Pompey Eclectic T-shirt, and then
yeah,
I'm happy.
let's do that. Polo shirts are
Oh,
plenty.
now
So
you're talking.
what I was going to mention is when we were talking about computer game magazines, as well as having the code in the magazine that you could type in for a game to write a game, they used to have cover discs, didn't they?
Oh yeah.
And that was brilliant, wasn't it? And it meant that they could charge an extra £1 or £2 or whatever for the magazine, and some of them used to get 2 cover discs on, and they would have demos on them, wouldn't they? Demos for games, which like cut down little versions of the game that you could try to see whether you wanted to buy the full thing.
That's
game.
right, yeah. Yeah, they started off with cover tapes, actually, with the Spectrum and Commodore 64. You used to put tapes on the front. And they weren't just demos, they were full games on them. They used to slap full games on those things. I don't know why. I think of the Dizzy games, do you remember the little Dizzy games, the little jumping egg? They used to put those on. Things like,
yeah, and
like that.
I think most of those were what was called PD games, which is, we talked about this the other day, didn't we? Public domain games.
Yeah.
So you used to get demo discs and PD discs. So you could back in those days, before we had phones, mobile phones and stuff, and before the internet really took off, you could send away to various little tin pot software companies who were distributing public domain games. So it was basically a free license. They were free. Right. There was free license games. So techie guys had written these games, and they distributed them for free. And these little companies would send you a list, like 5 pages of A4 with all these lists of games that you could buy from them, and they would send them to you in the post on a disc. And you would normally pay 50p each or £1 each, and it was just enough to cover the cost of the disc, just administration costs, the cost of the disc and that, Yeah, and there was a whole big market, like a whole big thing that emerged that lots of people used to do, to get their games. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, you could just write to me, and I'll use my dad's tape to tape and copy you a game for free. No, I didn't. I didn't do that. No.
Reel to reel.
Real. Now you're talking for real.
Reel to reel. But the trouble is with those things that
selector
used to happen.
Yes. Tapes were awful. Running games from tapes. There so many times they wouldn't work, and it takes 10 minutes sometimes to load a game, and it just to say tape loading error. Oh, terrible! I need to rewind the thing. Don't forget. Oh, those were difficult days.
Now,
but
listen,
it made us what we are.
They did, yeah, which is not good. But there you go. The other thing I was going to say is games, as well as having different styles like coin-op, platform, top-down. There was also this whole kind of theme around a game. So. And especially with the music, which we're going to come on to in a minute to talk about, is that you would have an end of level monster.
Boss.
And the boss. And you would have music for the end of level monster, and when you died there would be game over music. And there'd always be a start, like a little start jingle, start music for a game, and it was all sort of, and like a noise, a sound for collecting a coin, or all these sort of bits to the model that made this whole theme of what a game used to be. Do you think? I mean, those have died now, haven't they? I mean, they don't use that sort of stuff anymore. Do they still do bosses, end of level monsters?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. The latest kind of trend of games is a game called a game called Dark Souls, or there's another game before that, I think. But yeah, they're called Souls-like, and they're really hard as nails games, harkening back to the games we used to play, where you 3 lives and you're dead, start the game again. These games are challenging, and they basically a sequence of battles and lots of boss fights the music would all play. So I'm not really into Souls-likes because there's like Elden Ring. There's quite a few more recent games which are quite tough. And I think some of them you can, once you die, you don't die, you keep some of your skills so you can slowly get stronger and then come back again. But do it all again, but a bit stronger. And it's got that hook addictive loop, which is quite cool. But those games are very, very prevalent right now. Bloodborne and Elden Ring and Dark Souls. Those are probably the big ones, and they went through a phase of like roguelikes and procedurally generated games where the computer kind of, you never know what the next screen or level is going to be because the computer kind of randomizes it. And those are okay, but I'm a bit more generic and simplistic. I just like a good story at the end of the day. Gameplay is important, obviously.
Let's listen to a couple of little clips here.
All right.
Let's see what this is like. That was a game over clip.
That doesn't sound current, but I suppose we can't play anything too current because
an old game over clip. Here's another one. Let's try this. They're quite classic, ancient game over music.
Well, the games these days will have full orchestras and will have proper music matching any movies and graphics, which are like proper, almost photorealistic. And VR is where it's at for me now, because especially for scary games, like horror games, because on the flat screen they're scary, but once you're in the game and you can hear the monsters running after you and you're in there, there's nothing like it. To me, VR is.
This reminds me of something that I heard previously and highlights how brilliant these early writers of game music were, because they didn't have a lot to work with, did they, in this early synthesized sort of sound music on computers.
Yeah.
And there was this interview with this guy who was doing a PhD, a doctorate in music, and his subject, he was focusing on I don't know if he was focusing on ABBA or just on particular types of songs, but he had this theory he was developing where he said basically the best songs are the ones where the pitch of the music changes with the words, with the sentiment of the words. And he gave the example of Waterloo by ABBA. And he said,
Waterloo.
Yeah, exactly. And the pitch goes up when they sing, how when you won the war. How does it feel when you won the war? The pitch of the music goes up with the sentiment of the words being positive.
So is this song about the Battle of Waterloo? Because I could have used it in my trilogy of epic. Maybe that'll be the theme song. I have to ask Abba.
When the words, the sentiment of the words goes negative, how did it feel when you lose, like that? The pitch goes down. You have to listen to the songs. I can't do it. So the pitch of the song goes down instead. So that was his theory. That's one of the things that makes the song good. But I was interested in this game over music. All game over music sounds like that. The pitch goes down
in the minor key.
Or something like that. The most simple game over sound will be.
You need to give your players a sense of finality. That's it. Go and do something else, or try again. So you maybe a little boop at the end to make them try again.
Exactly. Let me just play one more clip. I don't know what this is, but let's try it. I think it's a 8-bit console.
Oh, this is cool. Oh.
Yeah, try to ignore
That's really. I love that.
If you're watching the video. But
I love that. I love the bass line. I love Oh
that's
yeah,
a
that's my
classic,
kind of thing.
a classic bit of 8-bit console music.
Was that from a game in particular?
Style. I think it's
Is
just
that
someone's written that music
it's
recently in the
copyright free?
style, in the same
Copyright
style.
free.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't come after us, YouTube. That's copyright
No,
free.
it's all copyright free.
So there.
Yeah, and so that would have been, what are we talking, early 90s, maybe, that sort of era.
Could be, yeah. That sounds early 90s for sure. I love it. And to me, I love that as much as I love even there are still games which are called retro games coming up today. There's recently a Double Dragon, Gaiden, which is a beat 'em up, and it's basically retro style, 8-bit. They've done it just like an old the chiptune music, everything, and it's like playing an old game. But there's certain little gameplay hooks which are modern. So they've done a brilliant job with some of these games. Yeah, Double Dragon Gaiden's a good one, but that's not in my top all-time games. So I think we should get. Do you think we should get onto our golden?
Let's do it. Yeah, let's.
Dada Mama. It's time for the golden thread feature.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Golden
what
thread.
was that? Good Mama.
Dada Mama.
Okay. All right. Well, if I'll go through, I'm going to miss out. I hate doing it. So we're going to pick 5 each, yeah?
Three each.
Start?
Just
Three?
do
No way.
3 each.
I can't even do. I've got like 50.
Get it down to 3.
Games.
You've got to be
That's
quick.
impossible.
3. And do them in reverse order.
Oh my god. Okay.
Shall I go first while you're thinking?
No, I can't do this. But you go first.
All right. So let's say this isn't. No, we can't.
You played about 5 games in your life, so it's easy for you.
Yeah, true. So my third choice is
number 3.
Is FIFA. I'm not going to pick out a particular one, but FIFA football games.
Yeah, I played one of the more recent ones because they're
just
good.
brilliant. They were brilliant. I mean, I loved Sensi Soccer. That was great. Everyone loved that at the time. But
Sensible Soccer.
yeah, when FIFA came out, though, yeah, it just wiped the floor with everyone else.
I played one of the more recent FIFA games. It was brilliant. And now it looks like an actual football match on the telly. The graphics are so good. And they've got like a story mode. That's what I played it for. Oh, there's a story mode where you start off on the street and playing football on the street, and you make your way up to a team and all that. But it is quite cool. But apparently every year they say they bring out a new FIFA. They don't change much. They just add new teams in, and they charge like 80 quid or whatever for the new game. So people are upset. But yeah, it is good. So yeah. My top 3, number 3. Oh God. I probably have to go with a game. These are games that really sort of shaped my storytelling in games. I guess I have to do, and I think the top one for me is top number 3 of my top ones is Half-Life. That is a game. When it came out, it just blew my socks off. I just finished. I got myself a PC rig which I built myself, and I heard this game Half-Life was pretty good, and it was a shooty game, FPS, first-person shooter, but it had a story, and the story took place. There's no cutscenes. It took place in the game, and it was just great. And we're gonna have a go at that if I can get it working on. I think I figured out how to do it. On Steam. There's a game called Sven Co-op, which basically lets you play Half-Life for free if you've got a PC. The whole single-player campaign in multiplayer co-op. So yeah, you'll see if you watch the video pod, we're going to do some gaming on one of those. We'll give it a go if you haven't tried it. And it's sequels, Half-Life 2. I put those together. Yeah. Number 2, Simon.
And just so you know, this Pompey Eclectic podcast is not a gaming podcast. We're just doing a one-off episode, and we're going to do some extra episodes thrown in for free, which are, well, it's all free anyway, which are us playing games.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, we're
right.
eclectic. We're eclectic. So every episode is a different subject. Right, here we go. My number 2 favourite game of all time. This one could easily have been my number 1, but I've relegated it to number 2.
Okay.
Purely because it's not very politically correct, really. It's a bit racist.
Oh.
Which is Medal of Honor.
Racist?
Yeah, because you shoot Germans.
No, you shoot
Nazis.
Nazis.
You shoot Nazis, but they're German aren't they? So
No, they're not. They're bad people who are.
yeah.
I don't see it as I don't see it as a race. So
Well, maybe
it's
not,
just
but yeah. But the thing is,
but
if we'd got beaten in World War II, and Germany had a game called something like that, Iron Cross or something, and they ran around shooting Chileans, shooting
and
Brits.
Chihuahuas, Chileans and the Chihuahuas.
Then you'd think it was racist, wouldn't you?
Well,
He's got to say no.
They focused on one kind of thing, but that didn't happen. We know we stopped the axis of evil from spreading. And
anyway, it's just the whole story thing where you go through the story. You've got the history. It leads to the history of the war, and the gameplay is really good. The weapons, different weapons and stuff. It's just brilliant.
Yeah,
I know so many people who still play Medal of Honor. It's like their comfort game.
Yeah, it kind of that was the first game that kind of evolved into the Battlefield, and then the Call of Duty games. So they're all similar, sort of mostly war, usually World War II, but sometimes different, more modern or futuristic. But yeah, they're excellent. I played the first Medal of Honor. I remember you start out, you skydive, parachute jump out into the conflict, and all the shrapnel. Really risky, really immersive when it came out. Yeah, that's not a bad choice.
Thank you. Glowing praise there from Phil.
My number two. My God. Well, I said it before. If I'm talking story games, maybe the Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, but no, that probably didn't blow my mind as much as Metal Gear Solid. That could be my number one as well, like you said with Medal of Honor. But there's one other game or game company which is my favourite. So Medal of Honor, that came out. That was a PlayStation 1 game, exclusive to the PlayStation 1 when it first came out, and it was just mind-blowing. It was a stealth game, and you control this guy, and you have to infiltrate this base, and then and see if they've got this nuclear weapon, and if they do, stop them launching it. And it was acting and cinematics and cutscenes, and all of its sequels. I love them all. Metal Gear games, brilliant. So the music, still to this day, although the graphics look tiny bit dated, it still holds up. If you look at the cinematics and the love that was put into it, and it did stuff like really mind-altering kind of stuff. Like you have to fight one of the bosses called Revolver Ocelot, I think it was, and he can manipulate your mind. Oh no, maybe it was Vulcan Raven, I think it was called. And you have to actually unplug your controller to put it in the other port so you can beat him, because it takes hold of your controller, so you have to unplug your controller. Otherwise, he tries to get you to kill yourself or something. Brilliant games. So that's my number two, Metal Gear Solid.
Good. So here comes my number one then. So as I said, this was going to be my number two, but it's number one now, and I think it's the right choice for me. The original game, this was a sequel. The original game I didn't play until after I'd played the sequel. And the original game was called Another World. The game fantastic. I'm choosing is the sequel, Flashback, which I loved. It was superb. The story, the platform aspect to it was good, and I wasn't a fan of platform games. The graphics were brilliant. I think they filmed a guy acting doing the jumps and rolls, and then
just like in Prince of Persia and Karate.
Exactly. The gun shots, were brilliant. The way the guns worked, and all of it was just brilliant. Yeah.
The storyline, and basically the storyline was a rip-off of Total Recall. So you've lost your memory. And you see a video of yourself saying, "Hey,
Yeah,
It's me,
Memento
Conrad.
as well.
Conrad was the guy. Brilliant game. And another word, that was a fantastic game. I played that so many times on the Amiga. I played through that game so many times. I beat it loads. Flashback was a bigger game and a more involved storyline. And yeah, it was a rip off of Total Recall, but fine. It's a game, and it was. They all recently, 2 years ago, they made Flashback 2.
Oh, did they? Ooh.
Yeah, it come out, and it's the same guy. He's finally made the sequel, I think, but it got really bad reviews. I think there were big bugs and problems with the game. I don't know. I have to look into it. But and they also did a remaster, which I've got on my PS3 of Flashback, and I think you can get it on Steam. They totally made it not 3D. It was still 2D, I think, but they really changed it all and made it look really cool. So I'll see if I can put a video of what it looks like then and now while I was talking. But yeah, a solid game, good storytelling. That's what I like those games. They told a lot of stories, especially Another World. It was very visual storytelling. I'd put Another World above Flashback even if it was me. But yeah, very good. Let's say my number one. God, I've got so many I want to put in, like the Persona games, the Resident Evil games, even the more recent 2-player Hazelite games like Way Out and Split Fiction. Oh, I could go on forever, but I'd say there's a company from France called Quantic Dream, and they have taken storytelling and into a new level for games. They basically have made a movie in a game, and they've done three, I think 4 games. Nomad Soul was their first game, but they didn't. Their next game, Heavy Rain, was when they really sort of took off. Nomad Soul actually had David Bowie in it, and he did the soundtrack to the game, so that was really cool. But Heavy Rain was the one I played on the PS3, and that was the best one. And their follow-up, Beyond Two Souls and Detroit Become Human, are also amazing. But Heavy Rain was the one that hooked me, so I have to use that as my number one game. And it's basically a detective kind of. Yeah, it's about a missing boy, and you control different sets of people that are involved in this missing boy. You control the detective trying to find out what's going on. The father, the missing kid, trying to find him, and you actually control the suspect who might have kidnapped him. And during the game, any one of these characters can die, and the story carries on, and it acknowledges they're dead. And there's so many layers to the directions you can go, different endings, and it's the first game where truly every single decision you make really makes a difference in the story. And they carried that onto their next 2 games. Incredible. The work that's gone into these games is phenomenal, and that's why I have to put them on number one. Anything by Quantic Dream, the graphics are beautiful, the stories, the gameplay, just mind blowing. Yes, for me.
Excellent.
All they need to do is do a VR game, and yes,
and you'll be there. I
will be day one.
I've never even heard of that game, let alone played it. So
it's a must play.
I've been off the scene for a long time. So
they're on Steam now.
That is our top 6 then, or top 3 each.
God, you pushed me to my limit there, because and that's our personal choices. I mean, there's people watching this be like, what? Where do you pick those?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, everything's personal, and we all have our own experiences in life, and those are the ones that stand out in my mind as like blowing me away.
So this is
this is
turning into a long episode because I've just got one more thing I wanted to talk about, but I think it'll only be 10 minutes over the usual hour. So I was just we've already talked about a lot of this actually, game music. So I'm just going to blast through a quick potter's history of game music. Right? This will be about a minute and a half at the most. So early days of game music, 1970s, 80s, chip tunes. We played a chip tune style track earlier, didn't we?
Yes.
And then in the 1980s, we got into continuous background music for the first time. There was a game called Rally X in 1980. That was the first game to have continuous background music.
Oh.
And then we hit towards the end of the 80s, we hit the synthesizer and MIDI era. So there were more complex tunes, 16-bit consoles.
Get your Casios out.
Yeah, 16-bit consoles era. Then in the 90s, CD-ROMs emerged.
That's right.
We started having CDs.
PlayStation was the founder of those, I believe.
Yeah. So what that meant was that we could then have orchestral scores, far more complicated, longer tracks, more variety of different tracks in one game, and
it's quite funny
high
because
quality audio.
Some of these old CD games, actually, if you played it in a CD player, sometimes the music tracks will play, so you get a free sound disc as well.
Nice. And then we come to the modern era, which is generally considered sort of 2000s onwards. And we're talking original compositions, renowned orchestras, superb classical style composers, cinematic film style soundtracks.
Yeah.
All of that stuff.
For me, the Japanese nailed it. They got their Final Fantasy scores. I can put those on. They're all on YouTube. You just type in Final Fantasy music and you'll be blown away by the orchestration. Some stunning music. Persona, they got a whole funk thing. I'm a bit of a funk fan, and they got their actual band, some brilliant band to do all the music. The list goes on. There's so many great music in games now, which is proper music. You play it to someone, it's like, oh, is that a game?
Yeah, no.
Wow, that's a brilliant song.
And the composers, I think, they're as good as any composers that we've ever had, really. I mean, apart from the odd standout ones that everybody knows, Beethoven, Mozart, etc. But they're absolutely top class composers, all of them. And the reason I know this is not because, well, obviously because I wasn't playing games the last 20 years, I wouldn't have heard many of them. But I used to listen to, I think it was Radio 4 and Classic FM. Actually, mainly Classic FM. And on Classic FM, I think it was on a Sunday afternoon, they had a computer game show. So they would play classical music from computer games. So the game music has got so good that they can actually play it as contemporary classical style music on a live radio station.
Yeah, the line between music, art, game is now just you can take all these things and make something truly amazing, which you're involved in. That's what I love about games. You're actually involved in it. You're not just watching it. You're a participant, which is magic for me. I've always loved that interaction and the immersion. But yeah,
I've got a stat. I've got a stat for you.
Oh,
2 stats actually: money, finance. The gaming industry is said to be worth $450 billion a year at the moment.
Yeah.
And gaming music is $1.64 billion a year.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's big business. Yeah.
And that's taken over from Hollywood, I reckon. Hollywood's now,
may well have done,
no one's going to the cinemas anymore. It's all streaming and stuff. Although here in Vietnam, the cinemas are still packed, which is nice. People love to go to the cinemas still. So I don't know what it's doing in the UK and America. I think it still does all right, and a big film comes out, but it's harder to make a film if you haven't got the wonga.
If you haven't got the pants for it.
Yeah. But get your mates together, make games. It's quite easy. All the stuff's online. There's free stuff. You can download Unreal, learn how to make games, get a good artist and a good coder, and write a good story. Slap it down, make $1 billion. Why not? Let's do it, Simon. You want to make a game?
No, I probably would have done if you'd asked me when I was a teenager or in my early 20s.
Just ask your robots, AI robots. We'll get more into AI in the next chat before we start our first gaming session, I reckon.
I think we will.
I didn't mention Last of Us, another brilliant game which I should have put in my top 3. Last of Us 2 was a bit divisive, but I still liked it, although I was annoyed at certain things. Anyway, I won't get into that right now.
So let's wrap this up then. So just to give you a pre-warning is a better way is a more accurate way to say it than
God of War.
a plug. Our next episode will be episode 9, and that's Comedy Duos Part 2.
Although, if you're in the UK and USA or places, be careful, or maybe not USA.
We don't know.
UK.
We don't know yet. You might not be able to see the video because we're having
But
problems
Simon's
with YouTube copyright.
If you had problems, if you didn't see our other one, last month's one, and Simon's working on it, aren't you? You can sort it out with YouTube. Get him to release it because it's classic clips of old films. Why did they stop us? Why did they stop you from enjoying that?
I don't know. So that's episode 9. We are going to do a Star Wars episode. So we're going to talk about all the films, the music, and the all the spin-offs and everything, the toys, the whole lot.
Lucky day.
And then we're going back to the next one will be Comedy Duos Part 3.
And then after might be time for
we don't know.
Halloween special.
And we'll be back to Halloween special again,
Who knows? But yeah, keep subscribe, please, and like and comment.
Subscribe and say hello, and
we
now listen.
Keep doing these.
I've got one little thing to share with you, Phil, before we go. This is a special treat for you, okay?
Okay.
Now you're worried. I've got him worried now because you're called Shaolin Phil, and you have been known as Ninja Phil in the past, and and you love ninjas, don't you? Well, when I was trying to find copyright-free clips, right, sound effects and stuff, I found a little piece of music which I think I want to make this your theme tune.
All right.
So this is Ninja Phil's theme tune.
Bring it on.
Before we sign off, here we go.
I want to be ninja. I want to be ninja. I want to chop down, take chow down to Chinatown. I want to be ninja.
What do you think?
I like it, but why did you say Chinatown? The ninjas are Japanese.
I don't know.
But yeah, it's pretty damn good. I might use that as my... I used to have a gong, but maybe from the next one I could put a bit of that. Actually, on my other pod I was doing, my gaming one I was doing, I have Shaolin. But I want to be ninjas pretty good. Yeah.
That's just to warm you up for the Star Wars episode.
All
right, let's sign off then. Okay, that was fun, wasn't it? Okay, great. Thanks for being here, everyone. We've enjoyed it.
Let's get some my cousins Neon City to play us out, shall we?
Yeah, and if you ever want to talk games, Phil is your man, as you can see. He knows a lot.
Tell us your favourite games below, and tell us any hidden gems on your system that we should play, and maybe we'll play them.
That's right. Here we go then. Bye-bye,
Next time.
everyone.